Today we are in week 3 of a 5-week sermon series entitled Frequently Asked Questions. Throughout this series, I am answering 5 questions that I, as a pastor, get asked on a regular basis. 5 questions that I think are very relevant to our church today. 5 questions that we have all likely asked at some point in life. Week 3, our third question, here it is. Why hasn't God answered my prayer? That's a tough question. Why hasn't God answered my prayer? Maybe you've been praying for a promotion, yet it seems you're overlooked in the workplace. Others are being promoted before you. God, I just want to provide a better life for my family. God, I just want to be successful in my career. Why aren't you answering my prayer? Maybe you're praying that God will restore your marriage. Yet every time you take one step forward, it seems like you take 2 steps backward. God, I just want a strong biblical relationship with my spouse. Why aren't you answering my prayer? Maybe you and your spouse are trying to conceive. You're praying for a baby, yet nothing is happening. God, we want so badly to be parents. We're good people. Why aren't you answering our prayer? Maybe you're praying for a loved one that is sick. You're praying that God will heal someone that's struggling with a life-threatening illness. God, I'm trusting you to do a miracle, yet their health continues to decline. God, why aren't you answering my prayer? Maybe you're praying for one of your children. They're making poor life choices, and you're worried sick. It's keeping you up at night. God, please save my son. Please save my daughter. God, please help them to make wise choices. Yet their life continues to spiral out of control. God, why haven't you answered my prayer? Some of you are here today, and if you're brutally honest with yourself, you're angry with God. You're fed up. You're downright discouraged. You're burnt out, and you're on the verge of giving up. If that's you, unfortunately, I don't have the perfect answer to this question. I don't think anyone does. But today I hope to encourage you, and I hope to help you see this question from maybe a perspective that you have never considered. Here's what I have come to realize in my personal walk with the Lord. This is very important. It's usually not that God doesn't answer our prayer. It's usually that he doesn't give us the answer we want. One more time, that's very important. It's usually not that God doesn't answer our prayer. It's usually that God doesn't give us the answer we want. So if you're here today and you're in a season of frustration, you're praying, God, why haven't you answered my prayer? I want us to look at 3 major possibilities. The first major possibility, number 1, the answer is no. I know that's probably not what you want to hear. But if you're asking God to do something and he's not doing it, maybe, just maybe, the answer is no. My oldest son, Knox, will turn 4 years old on Christmas Eve. Rewind a couple years. When he was around 2 years old, he had this weird obsession with electrical outlets. Every day, several times a day, I would catch him playing with an electrical outlet. I would pull him away. I would say, no, you can't do that. He would get angry, he would kick, he would cry, he would scream, he would pitch a fit. From his perspective, I was the mean dad that was keeping him away from doing something that he wanted to do. That is, until one day, he was playing with an electrical outlet, and I didn't get to him soon enough. He got electrocuted. He got shocked. It jumped up and bit him. In that moment, I think this went through his little 2-year-old mind. My dad is much smarter and wiser than I've given him credit for recently. All along, he hasn't been keeping me from something that I wanted. He's been protecting me from something that could potentially hurt me. I don't know. That probably didn't go through the mind of a 2-year-old, but something did click. Because since that day, he hasn't touched or even gotten near an electrical outlet. Have you ever prayed for something and then later thanked God for not answering your prayer? It's like, I was praying for this, But had God answered this over here would have never happened. Now that it's in the past, now that it's behind you, you see that God had a much better plan all along. When Molly and I got married, we were looking to buy a house. And if you know me, you know I have a tendency to be cheap. So I was looking for a good deal. I was looking for something that others overlooked. I was looking for something that needed to be a little bit of work. We found a foreclosure here in Hart County. At this time, it was everything we wanted and more. So we put in an offer. We went under contract. We were extremely excited. We were praying that the deal would go through. And then we had a home inspection. And we found out the house didn't need a little bit of work. The house needed a lot of work. This inspection revealed a lot of problems we didn't realize the house had. So reluctantly, we backed out of the deal. Now, we were disappointed. We were frustrated. We already had flooring picked out. We already had countertops picked out. We didn't understand why it unfolded the way that it did until a couple months later. Another house came on the market, a much better house. We bought that house. We lived there for 3 years. It was a great investment. We sold it. We made some money on that property, which enabled us to purchase the house we currently live in. Some of you know this story. Some of you don't. At one point in time, I was praying that God would open a door for me outside of Crossroads. I didn't want to be here anymore. At this point in time, I was the associate pastor. The church was in poor shape. Finances were way down. Attendance was way down. There wasn't very much job security. So I was praying, God, why did you send me here? Please open a door for me somewhere else. And God said no. He said, I want you to bloom right where I've planted you. I didn't understand at the time, but about 12 months later, I was hired to be the senior pastor. God has given me a real heart for this church and a real heart for this community. I am so glad, I am so thankful that God's answer to those two prayers was no. When we don't get our way, we have a tendency to act just like children. We get angry with God, we kick, we scream, we pitch a fit. But maybe, just maybe, God isn't trying to keep you from something that you want. Maybe he's trying to protect you from something that could potentially hurt you. Or maybe he's preparing you for something that's so much better than what it is that you're asking for. Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 and verse 9, it says this, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. You say, okay, Sean, why would God say no to healing someone? Why would God say no to giving me a baby? Why would God let a person suffer? Why would God allow me to go through what it is that I'm going through? And those are extremely difficult questions to answer. I could attempt to give you some advanced theological answer, but the fact of the matter is I don't know. There are some things we will never understand on this side of eternity. We have to accept the fact that we live in a fallen, sinful world. And we can point the finger, we can blame God, we can get angry with him, but what we have to remember is that his original creation was perfect. We're the ones that messed it up with our sin. But despite the fact that we turned our backs on him, he still made a way for us through Jesus Christ. Jesus came to earth. He lived a perfect, sinless life, yet he was betrayed. He was beaten. He was crucified on a cross. 3 days later, he rose from the grave once and for all, overcoming and defeating death. And yes, there might be some things here on earth that we don't understand. There might be some things that are hard to bear, but one day Jesus is coming back for those who have surrendered their lives to him. And he's taking us to a place where there's no more sickness, no more sorrow, no more difficulties, no more injustice, no more sin. But as believers, as a church, until that time comes, we have to learn to trust that his ways are higher than our ways, that his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. We have to trust and realize that he is infinitely smarter than we are. And if he can take a cross, an instrument of death, and turn it into an empty tomb, if he can take the greatest tragedy in the history of the world and in 3 days turn it into the greatest miracle in the history of the world, there isn't a situation, there isn't a scenario, there isn't a circumstance here on earth that he can't use for our good and for his glory. If you're praying, if you're asking God, God, why haven't you answered my prayer? The first major possibility, maybe the answer is no. The second major possibility, number two, maybe the answer is not right now. Maybe the answer is not right now. The Bible is full of examples of people who had to wait on the Lord. Joseph, Noah, David, Abraham, even Jesus himself. The list goes on and on. And I think there's several reasons, but today I want us to look at three reasons why the answer might be not right now. The first reason, it's just not the right time. Maybe it's just not the right time. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear because we live in a time of instant gratification. Microwaves, fast food, high-speed internet. We want it here, we want it fast, we want it now. The bottom line, we are impatient. But God isn't a vending machine. God isn't some genie that instantly grants our request. Oh, you want a promotion? Here's your new office. You want some more money? Check your purse again. You're looking for Mr. or Miss Right? Just go to the park. He or she will be waiting there for you on a bench. No, it can happen that way, but it usually doesn't happen that way. Psalm chapter 27, verse 14 says, wait for the Lord. Be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. What do we tend to do when we find ourselves in a waiting season? We tend to get impatient. We tend to rush things. We tend to take matters into our own hands, and that's when we royally screw things up. And yes, I'm speaking from personal experience. But I'm also speaking from personal experience when I say this. God's plan is worth the wait. God's plan is worth the wait. The first reason the answer might be not right now, maybe it's just not the right time. The second reason, maybe you're not ready. Maybe you're not ready. My first vehicle was a 1990 Nissan pickup, manual, 5-speed, 4-cylinder, no air conditioning. You had to get a running start to get up a big hill. That vehicle didn't have much power. It was an old truck. I worked hard. I sanded it down. My parents paid for a paint job. I loved that truck. But you know what I would have loved even more? A high-powered sports car. I wasn't picky. Ford, Chevy, Dodge. I would have taken anything you would have given me that had a lot of horsepower. But looking back now, I'm glad my parents didn't buy me a sports car because I probably wouldn't be in here. I would probably be out there in the cemetery. I was far too irresponsible at 16, 17 years old. But if you are looking for a birthday gift idea, a Christmas gift idea, now that I'm older, now that I'm wiser, now that I'm much mature, I think I'm ready for that high-powered sports car. Just as that car would have been the death of me at age 16, age 17, there are some things I'm praying for, some things I'm asking God for, some things I want really bad. And as difficult as it is to admit this, I know if God were to give me those things right now, I'd likely screw them up. I believe he has been, and I believe he is currently preparing me for what it is that he has in store. And I think the same is true for each and every one of you. No matter where you're at in life, no matter where you're at in your walk with the Lord, there's likely some things that you're asking God for, some things that you're praying for, some things that you want really bad. And maybe God is saying, no, not right now. Not because he's mean, but because he knows you're not ready. The first reason the answer might be not right now, it's just not the right time. The second reason, maybe you're not ready. The third reason, maybe you have an ulterior motive. Maybe you have an ulterior motive. Psalm chapter 44, verse 21 tells us that God knows the secrets of the heart. Believe it or not, you can pray for the right things for the wrong reasons. I'll say that one more time. You can pray for the right things for the wrong reasons. And I'll be as real as I can possibly be with you, and I'll share a personal example. Since I came to Crossroads, I have diligently prayed for revival. I prayed for church growth. I want to see God save hundreds. Scratch that, not hundreds, thousands of people through our ministry here at Crossroads Baptist Church. You say, Sean, come on, that'll never happen in a small country church. I've heard that before, and I'll respond to you the way Jesus responded to the doubters when he was on earth. Oh, you of little faith. I don't know what Bible or what version of the Bible you read that says God needs certain population or a certain geographical location to work in big ways, but the Bible I read says God is capable of all things, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So for the past several years, I've been praying these big prayers. And a couple years ago, God revealed something to me. He revealed to me that I was praying for the right things for some of the wrong reasons. Yes, I genuinely wanted to see people come to know Jesus Christ as their Savior and Lord. But I also had an ulterior motive. I wanted a bigger platform. I wanted to be known. I wanted to be successful. A large part of what I was praying for was for God. But a small part of what I was praying for was for me. So over the last couple of years, I've been on a journey to not only align my will with God's will, but to align my motives with God's motives. Maybe you're praying for a spouse because you're lonely and you have insecurity issues. Maybe you're praying God will grow your business or give you a promotion so your name will be known. Maybe you're praying to become a deacon or hold some other prestigious position in the church so that others will look up to you. You're praying for the right thing, but for the wrong reason. If that's you, not only do you need to pray for the right thing, you need to carefully examine your heart and ensure that you have a pure motive. The first major reason, the first major possibility God hasn't answered your prayer. Number one, maybe the answer is no. Number two, for various reasons, maybe the answer is not right now. And number three, the third major possibility, maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is yes. As a father, my first goal, my first priority is to raise God-fearing men. I want to set the example for my children. I want to teach them how to follow Christ. I want to see God use them in magnificent ways from a very young age. That is my first priority. Second to that, I want to instill work ethic into my boys. I feel work ethic is becoming a thing of the past. I feel it's not valued in the up-and-coming generations like it has been in the previous generations. I'll tell you how to shine in today's workplace. I'll tell you how to get a promotion. I'll tell you how to stand out among all your coworkers. It's very, very simple. Just do your job. Unfortunately, that has become rare. The challenge employers are facing isn't finding elite employees who go above and beyond the call of duty. The challenge employers are facing is finding employees that are simply willing to do what it is they're compensated to do. So in an effort to instill work ethic into my two sons at an early age, I refuse to do everything for them. This is much more applicable to my older son than my younger son because he's at the age where he can do some things for himself. If he says, Daddy, I want a snack, I don't run to the pantry and get out the cookies and arrange them in the shape of a heart and make him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and tear off the crust and then deliver it to him on the couch as he watches his favorite TV show. No, Daddy, can I have a snack? Yes, go to the pantry and get something yourself. Daddy, I'm thirsty, I want a drink. Okay, go find your cup yourself. Daddy, I want to go swimming. Okay, go upstairs and put on your swim trunks. Daddy, I want to go outside and play. Okay, go put your shoes on, and then we'll go outside and play. I do not wait on them hand and foot. I have 18 years to prepare them for the world, and I refuse to be a parent who goes to college with them to tie their shoes for them before I send them off to class each morning. We live in a time where everybody is looking for a handout. Everybody is looking for a big break. Everybody is looking for a shortcut. And we tend to have this attitude and mindset when it comes to prayer. God, I want you to save my coworker. What do you want? You want God to send an angel to your workplace to share the gospel with your coworker, and you want to be a fan on the sidelines who gives them a hug after they make a profession of faith. You never take into consideration that maybe the someone God sent to share the gospel with them is you. You say, God, I want to be closer to you. I want to be used by you. What do you want? You want God to wave a magic wand and all of a sudden you become a devoted follower of Jesus. You don't want to make sacrifices. You don't want to make commitments. You don't want to surrender. You say, God, I want so badly to make more money. I'm in a poor financial situation. What do you want? You want to check your bank account and see a deposit from heaven. God might not magically put money in your account, but he might bless you with an opportunity to make more money. He might bless you with an opportunity to make some money on the side. Here's the point. Sometimes, follow me, sometimes the answer is yes, but you have to claim it. Sometimes God opens a door, but you have to walk through it. I'm reminded of a story, and this is my version of this story, but it's a story about a kid that was getting ready to graduate high school. He came from a very wealthy home, and for graduation, he wanted a new car. He found the dealership that had the exact car he wanted. He went to his father. He said, Dad, I really want this car as a graduation gift. His dad did not give him a definitive answer, but he did lead his son to believe that he would buy him this car. The day of graduation rolls around. The father calls the son into his home study. He says, son, have a seat. His son sits down. He says, look, I'm so proud of the man you're becoming. I'm so proud of everything that you have accomplished. He reaches from under the desk and he pulls out a gift. The son is excited. He takes the gift. He rips it open. To his surprise, to his disappointment, it's a leather-bound Bible. He didn't like that. He threw the Bible down. He stormed out of his dad's office. From that moment forward, there was very little communication between the father and the son. The son moved far away to advance his career. Several years pass by, and the son gets news that his father has passed away. So he returns to his hometown. He goes to the funeral. After the service, he returns to his father's home, and he begins going through his father's belongings. He comes across that Bible that his father bought him for graduation many years earlier. With tears in his eyes, he sits down and he begins reading the Bible. As he's flipping through the pages, a key falls out from the back of the Bible. And there's a tag attached to the key that has his graduation date. It has the dealer's name, the same dealer that had that exact car he wanted many years earlier. And there's a handwritten note from his father that says, paid in full. What's the moral of the story? Sometimes you're not waiting on the Father. Sometimes the Father is waiting on you. One more time. Sometimes you're not waiting on the Father. Sometimes the Father is waiting on you. As I bring this message to a close, and don't start getting your things together, I want everyone to focus in, because the next minute of this message is the most important minute of this message. If our praise team will come forward. If you're here today and you find yourself in a season of frustration, God, why haven't you answered my prayer? The first thing I want to do is let you know that God hears you. God hasn't forgotten about you. God loves you. If it matters to you, it matters to him. But God also knows and wants what's best for you. Remember, it's usually not that he doesn't answer our prayer. It's usually that he doesn't give us the answer we want. Three major possibilities, and here's what you need to do. The first major possibility, maybe the answer is no. If that's the answer God is giving you, I know it's hard to accept, but maybe he has another plan for you. Stop asking God to open a door that he's already closed. Here's what I would encourage you to do. Stop praying for what you want and start praying for God's will to be done, even if you don't know what that is. The second major possibility, maybe the answer is not right now. If this is the answer you're getting, I would encourage you to persevere. I would encourage you to be patient. I would encourage you to continue trusting the Lord. Refuse to take matters into your own hands. God's plan is worth the wait. The third major possibility, maybe the answer is yes. If this is the answer, you've had it all backwards. You haven't been waiting on God. God has been waiting on you. It's time to be obedient. It's time to take action. It's time to walk through whatever door God has opened for you, regardless of how difficult or how uncomfortable that may be. As they sing, these altars are open for anything. But I do have a specific invitation. If you're here today and God has spoken to your heart through this message, maybe you've realized, hey, the answer is no. The answer is not right now. The answer is yes. Maybe you realize you need to turn and walk away from a closed door. Or maybe you realize you need to turn and walk through an open door. Or maybe you're here today and you realize you need to wait in the hallway. If God has spoken to you, if you feel led, if you feel compelled to come forward, without hesitating, without looking around, as they begin to sing, you begin to come. Let's stand and sing.